I came to my son's house for Thanksgiving, but he said, "What are you doing here? Nobody invited you. Leave." But the whole family was inside. I left silently and canceled all the checks. The next day, Good day, dear listeners. It's Louisa again. I'm glad you're here with me. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end, and let me know which city you're listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled. I had always believed that family was everything. For 63 years, I'd built my life around that simple truth. My late husband Robert and I had worked hard, saved carefully, and raised our son Michael to value kindness and loyalty. When Robert passed 5 years ago, Michael promised I'd never be alone. "You're always welcome in our home, Mom," he'd said at the funeral, squeezing my hand. So when Michael married Jennifer 3 years ago, I tried my best to welcome her. I really did. She was polished, ambitious, successful in her marketing career. Different from our family, perhaps. But I told myself that was good. Michael deserved someone who challenged him. I ignored the small signs. How she'd change the subject when I spoke at dinner. How she'd schedule family events without calling me first. How my Christmas gifts were always met with tight smiles and quick thank yous before being set aside. I helped them financially. What else was a mother to do? When they bought their 4-bedroom colonial in Westchester, I contributed $50,000 toward the down payment. "Consider it an early inheritance," I'd told Michael. When Jennifer wanted to renovate the kitchen, I wrote another check for $35,000. When the twins were born 2 years ago, my precious granddaughters Emma and Lily, I set up education funds, $10,000 each annually. I wasn't wealthy, but Robert's life insurance and our retirement savings meant I could help my only child build his life. The subtle freeze started about 6 months ago. My weekly Sunday dinners became bi-weekly, then monthly. FaceTime calls with the twins were often not a good time. Jennifer's texts grew shorter, cooler, but I told myself I was being oversensitive. Young families were busy. I remembered how exhausting twin toddlers could be. When Thanksgiving approached, I assumed I'd spend it with them as always. I'd hosted for 30 years when Robert was alive. Now they hosted, and I brought my famous sweet potato casserole and pecan pies. It was tradition, but this year, no invitation came. By mid-November, I finally called Michael. "Oh, Mom, of course you're coming," he said, though his voice sounded strained. "Thursday at 2, like always." I should have heard the hesitation. I should have asked more questions, but I wanted to believe everything was fine. Thanksgiving morning, I woke at 6 to start cooking. The sweet potato casserole took hours to prepare properly, Robert's mother's recipe, passed down through 3 generations. I made 2 pecan pies from scratch, the way Michael loved them. I wrapped everything carefully, loaded my car, and drove the 45 minutes to Westchester, my heart full of anticipation. I hadn't seen the twins in 3 weeks. I parked in their driveway at 1:55 p.m., exactly on time. I could see cars already there. Michael's brother-in-law's SUV, Jennifer's parents' Mercedes, her sister's Lexus. Good, I thought. A full family gathering. I balanced the casserole dish and pie boxes, managed to ring the doorbell with my elbow. Jennifer answered. She was wearing a cream designer dress, her blonde hair in perfect waves, makeup flawless. She looked at me the way you'd look at a door-to-door salesman. "What are you doing here?" Her voice was ice. "Nobody invited you. You need to leave." I stood there, frozen, the casserole dish growing heavy in my arms. Behind her, I could see the dining room table, extended with extra leaves, set for 12. I could hear laughter. Michael's laugh, the twins squealing, Jennifer's mother's distinctive voice. "Michael said," I started. "I don't care what Michael said," Jennifer cut me off. Her eyes were hard, her jaw set. "This is my house, and I didn't invite you. We're having a family dinner. You're not welcome. Leave. But the children. My voice cracked. Go! She stepped back and swung the door shut. It closed with a decisive click, the deadbolt turning immediately. I stood on that porch for 30 seconds that felt like 30 years. Through the window, I could see everyone gathering around the table. Michael was seating the twins in their high chairs. He had to have heard. He had to know I was out here. He never came to the door. I walked back to my car in silence, carefully placed my dishes in the passenger seat, and drove home. I didn't cry. Not yet. I was too shocked. Too numb. But by the time I reached my house, the numbness had burned away, leaving something else entirely. Clarity. I sat in my kitchen that evening, staring at the casserole and pies I'd worked so hard on, and finally let myself feel it all. The humiliation, the betrayal. Not just from Jennifer. I could almost understand her cruelty. But from Michael, my son. The boy I'd raised to stand up for what was right, who'd stood silent while his wife threw his mother off the porch like unwanted trash. How long had he known? Had he agreed to this? Or was he simply too weak to stand up to his wife? I made myself tea with shaking hands and forced myself to think clearly. Robert used to say, Eleanor, when you're hurt, wait 24 hours before making big decisions. But some decisions didn't need waiting. Some decisions were simply recognizing reality. I opened my laptop and began making a list. Numbers, facts, dates, everything I'd given them over the past 3 years. Down payment assistance, $50,000. Kitchen renovation, $35,000. Education funds, $20,000 annually for 2 years equals $40,000. Smaller gifts, furniture, helping with car payment when Jennifer was between jobs, approximately $15,000. Total, $140,000. And the ongoing commitments, education funds, $20,000 per year, set to continue until college. Monthly help with their mortgage, $1,000 per month. Health insurance coverage I'd added them to, $600 monthly. I wasn't a wealthy woman. That money represented nearly half of Robert's life insurance payout and a significant portion of our retirement savings. Money I'd given freely, happily, because they were family. But what was family worth if it meant being treated like a stranger? Like an inconvenience? Like someone who could be dismissed and humiliated without consequence? I slept poorly that night. In my dreams, I saw that door closing over and over. Jennifer's cold eyes, the sound of my family laughing inside while I stood alone in the cold. Friday morning, I woke with perfect clarity. I wasn't angry. Anger was hot and reactive. What I felt was colder, sharper, determination. I called my bank first. I need to stop some recurring transfers, I told them. Within 30 minutes, I'd canceled the monthly mortgage assistance and the automatic education fund deposits. Then I called the insurance company and removed Michael's family from my supplemental health coverage policy. Effective immediately, I specified. Next, I contacted my lawyer, Richard Morrison. We'd used him for estate planning when Robert died. Richard, I need to revise my will, I said. Today, if possible. Of course, Eleanor. Is everything all right? Everything's fine. I just need to make some changes while I'm thinking clearly. We met that afternoon. I didn't explain everything, not yet, but I removed Michael as primary beneficiary, redirected everything to charities and cousins' children, established clear boundaries. If Michael or his family were mentioned at all, it was with strict conditions requiring demonstrated reconciliation and respect. Eleanor, Richard said carefully, reviewing the documents. This is a significant change. Are you certain? I've never been more certain of anything. I signed everything, had it notarized, and left with copies in my bag. The rest of the weekend, I waited. Michael knew those bank transfers posted on the 1st of each month. He'd notice by Monday or Tuesday at the latest. Jennifer definitely would. She managed their finances with the precision of the marketing executive she was. I didn't call, didn't text, didn't explain. If they wanted to treat me as if I didn't exist, then I'd show them what my absence actually meant. Sunday evening, I did something I hadn't done in months. I called my sister Patricia in California. We'd drifted apart after Robert died, mainly because I'd been so focused on Michael's family. "Ellie, is that you?" Her surprise was evident. "Hi, Patty. I know it's been too long." "What's wrong? You sound different." And there, 3,000 miles away from the disaster of my Thanksgiving, I told her everything. She listened without interrupting, and when I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Good," she finally said. "I never liked how they took you for granted. What are you going to do now?" "I don't know yet," I admitted, "but I'm done being invisible." "You're not invisible, Ellie. You're just finally opening your eyes." Monday morning, I woke early and began phase 2 of my plan. I needed documentation, evidence. I needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with before I decided my next move. I started a folder on my computer. Dates, times, copies of bank transfers, emails, text messages. Everything organized, everything clear. If this was going to be a fight, I'd be prepared. Tuesday morning. 3 days after Thanksgiving, my phone rang. Michael's name flashed on the screen. I let it ring 4 times before answering, something I'd never done before. "Hi, Michael." "Mom?" His voice was tight, stressed. Did you cancel the bank transfers?" "Yes, I did." Silence. I could hear him breathing, could almost see him running his hand through his hair the way he did when nervous. "Why would you do that? We count on that money." "The education funds, the mortgage help. Mom, we have a budget. We planned around that. You had a budget that included taking my money while treating me like a stranger," I said calmly. "I decided that arrangement no longer works for me." "This is about Thanksgiving?" His voice rose. "Jennifer said you just showed up." "I showed up because you invited me, Michael. You told me 2 p.m. like always. I cooked for hours. I brought the casserole and pies your children love, and your wife slammed the door in my face while my entire family laughed inside." "It was a misunderstanding." "Was it a misunderstanding that you never came to the door? That you let me stand there and then drive away alone?" My voice remained steady, but I felt the old wound open fresh. "Which part was the misunderstanding exactly?" Another silence. Longer this time. Jennifer was stressed. The holidays, hosting everyone, the twins. "Don't," I interrupted. "Don't make excuses for cruelty. I raised you better than that." "So you're punishing us financially? That's your solution?" "I'm not punishing anyone. I'm simply choosing how to spend my own money. Money I worked 40 years to save. Money your father died believing would secure my future. I choose not to give it to people who treat me as disposable." "Mom, please, we need that money. The mortgage is your responsibility. You're both educated professionals with good incomes. You bought a house you could afford. My help was exactly that. Help, not an obligation." "What about the girls' education funds?" My heart clenched at the mention of Emma and Lily, but I kept my voice firm. "When they're old enough to have a relationship with me, when I'm allowed to be their grandmother instead of a stranger, we can discuss their future. Not before." I heard Jennifer's voice in the background, sharp and demanding. "Let me talk to her," she said. "Mom," Michael started. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I'd never hung up on my son before. Never. But something had shifted in me on that porch. Something fundamental and irreversible. An hour later, my phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer's number. "This is ridiculous. You're acting like a child. We had a family event, And I decided we needed immediate family only. You're making this into something it's not. Restore the payments, and we can talk about scheduling visits. I read it twice, feeling my resolve harden like steel. Scheduling visits, with my own grandchildren, as if I were a service provider who needed an appointment. I didn't respond. That afternoon, I received an email from Michael. More formal, clearly drafted with Jennifer's input. Mom, we understand you're upset, but we need to discuss this rationally. The education funds are for Emma and Lily's future. You're hurting them, not us. The mortgage assistance helps ensure they have a stable home. Please reconsider. We can arrange a time to talk this through properly. Maybe after the holidays when everyone's calmer. After the holidays. When everyone's calmer. As if my feelings were just holiday stress, not a fundamental violation of respect and decency. I forwarded the email to Richard Morrison with a simple note. For the file. Wednesday evening, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw Michael standing there, alone. He looked tired, rumpled. For a moment, my mother's heart ached. But I remembered him setting the twins in their high chairs while I stood outside. I remembered the sound of that door closing. I opened it but didn't invite him in. Mom, please, can we talk? We're talking now. Can I come in? I'd rather you didn't. He flinched. Good. Let him feel a fraction of what I'd felt. I'm sorry, he said. I should have come to the door. I should have stood up for you. She's been difficult lately, and I chose the path of least resistance. That was wrong. Yes, it was. But this scorched earth approach, cutting us off financially, changing your will. I felt my blood run cold. How do you know about my will? He looked away, guilty. Jennifer has a friend who works at Richard's firm. She mentioned seeing you there. So they'd been checking up on me. Spying, essentially. And Michael saw nothing wrong with admitting it. Get off my porch, I said quietly. Mom, you came here to manipulate me into restoring your money, not to apologize, not to make amends, to secure your funding. I see that now. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Michael. I learned that when my husband died and I stood alone at his funeral planning how to support my son's future. You're learning it now. Get off my porch and don't come back unless you're ready to have a real conversation about real change. I closed the door. This time, I was the one who walked away. And this time, the deadbolt was on my side. The next morning, I took the most difficult step yet. I drove to Westchester, parked down the street from Michael's house at 8:45 a.m., and waited. I knew Jennifer left for work at 9 o'clock sharp. She'd bragged about her punctuality often enough. I knew Michael's schedule, too. He worked from home Thursdays, handled the twins while the nanny came at 10 o'clock. At 9:02, Jennifer's Lexus pulled out of the driveway. I waited 5 minutes, then drove to the house and rang the doorbell. Michael answered, holding Lily on his hip. Emma clung to his leg. They were in pajamas, faces sticky with what looked like breakfast. When they saw me, Emma's face lit up. Gamma! She shrieked. My heart nearly broke. Mom, what are you doing here? Michael's face cycled through surprise, guilt, and fear. I came to see my granddaughters. May I come in? He hesitated, glancing at his watch, calculating how long before Jennifer might call to check in. Please, Michael, 30 minutes. That's all I'm asking. He stepped aside. Emma and Lily mobbed me immediately, their small arms wrapping around my legs. I knelt down, breathing in their baby shampoo smell, feeling their solid warmth. These were Robert's legacy, my blood. How had I let anyone keep me from them? Girls, why don't you show Grandma your new toys? Michael suggested, his voice strained. They dragged me to the living room, chattering about dolls and blocks and a new book. I sat on the floor with them, my old knees protesting but my heart soaring, and played. Really played. I'd forgotten how pure this was, how uncomplicated. Michael watched from the doorway, phone in hand. After 20 minutes, I heard the garage door open. My stomach dropped. Jennifer wasn't supposed to be back for hours. She appeared in the living room doorway, still in her work clothes, her face a mask of fury, barely contained in front of the children. "Girls, go to your room, now," she said, her voice deadly calm. "But Gamma," Emma protested. "Now." They scurried away, frightened by her tone. The moment their door closed, Jennifer turned on Michael. "You let her in, after everything we discussed? They're her grandchildren, Jen. She has a right—" "She has no rights!" Jennifer's voice rose, sharp and cutting. "This is our house, our children, our life. She doesn't get to manipulate her way back in by cutting off money and then showing up like nothing happened." I stood slowly, my knees cracking. "I came to see my grandchildren. That's all. You came to guilt Michael, to worm your way back into our finances." Jennifer's eyes flashed. "Well, it won't work. You want to play hardball? Fine. Cut us off. Change your will. But understand this, those are my daughters, and I decide who sees them." "They're Michael's daughters, too," I said quietly. "And Michael agrees with me. Don't you, honey?" She looked at him with such naked threat that I finally understood. This wasn't just about money or respect. This was about control. Jennifer controlled Michael, controlled access to the twins, controlled the entire family dynamic, and I had been funding her power. "Jennifer, maybe we should—" Michael started weakly. "We should what? Give in to her manipulation? She's trying to buy her way back with tears and grandma guilt. I won't have it." I picked up my purse, moving toward the door. "You're right, Jennifer. I was trying to buy something. Love, respect, a place in my family. I see now that was foolish. You can't buy what people refuse to sell." "Good. Then we understand each other. We do." I looked at Michael, who couldn't meet my eyes. "When you're ready to be a man instead of a puppet, you know where I am." Jennifer's face went white with rage. "Get out, and if you ever show up here again without permission, I'll call the police for trespassing." "This is half my son's house." "Try me," she hissed. "I have documentation of your erratic behavior, threatening us financially, showing up uninvited, making demands. I can make you look unstable to a judge so fast it'll make your head spin, and then you'll never see those girls." The threat hung in the air, crystal clear. She'd use the legal system against me, paint me as an unhinged grandmother. She probably had already started building her case, saved texts, documented interactions, maybe even recordings. "You're very good at this," I said softly. "Twisting reality, making yourself the victim. But lies have a way of coming out." "That sounds like a threat." "It's an observation." I walked to my car with as much dignity as I could manage, but my hands shook as I started the engine. Through the window, I could see Jennifer on her phone, probably calling her lawyer, her mother, building her narrative. I drove home and sat in my driveway for 10 minutes, breathing deeply. Then I went inside, made tea, and allowed myself 2 days to do nothing but rest. I watched old movies, read books, took long baths. Let my body recover from the adrenaline, the confrontation, the heartbreak. Because I knew this wasn't over. Jennifer had shown her cards: control, manipulation, legal threats. Now I knew what I was fighting, and I'd need all my strength for what came next. Sunday afternoon, my phone rang with an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Eleanor, this is Diane Patterson, Jennifer's mother." I should have hung up immediately. Instead, curiosity kept me on the line. "Hello, Diane. I wanted to reach out personally, woman to woman, mother to mother." Her voice was warm, sympathetic. the practiced tone of someone used to getting her way through charm. I understand there's been some family tension. That's one way to phrase it. Jennifer told me what happened at Thanksgiving. It sounds like there was a genuine miscommunication. You know how stressful the holidays can be, especially with small children. Emotions run high. Things get said in the heat of the moment. She was rewriting history, smoothing the edges, making it all sound like a simple misunderstanding instead of deliberate cruelty. Diane, your daughter told me to leave. She slammed the door in my face. That wasn't heat of the moment, that was calculated. Oh, Eleanor, she sighed, all maternal understanding. I'm sure it felt that way. But Jennifer was overwhelmed. She'd been cooking for days, cleaning, trying to make everything perfect. When you arrived unexpectedly, I was invited. She panicked. It wasn't personal. You know how particular she is about planning. I remained silent, letting her fill the void. The thing is, Diane continued, her voice dropping to a more serious tone, this situation is hurting everyone. Michael is devastated. The girls keep asking for you. And Jennifer, well, she's under tremendous stress at work. This family conflict isn't helping. And yet she's the one who created it. Eleanor, please, I'm trying to help here. I'm proposing a solution. Why don't you and Jennifer meet for coffee? Just the two of you. Clear the air. You're both intelligent, reasonable women. I'm sure you can work this out. After she threatened to call the police on me for visiting my grandchildren. A pause. She was protecting her family. Surely you understand that instinct. I understand a mother protecting her children. I don't understand a woman using her children as weapons. That's unfair. Diane's voice cooled slightly. Jennifer loves those girls. Everything she does is for them. Including isolating them from their grandmother, including teaching them that family can be discarded when convenient. You're being dramatic. Am I? I felt my old anger rising but pushed it down, kept my voice level. Diane, why are you really calling? Another pause. When she spoke again, the warmth was gone, replaced by pragmatic steel. Because this needs to end. You're hurting yourself as much as anyone. You're alone, Eleanor. You're cutting yourself off from the only family you have. And for what? Pride? Stubbornness? Is that really worth losing your grandchildren? There it was. The hook, baited with my deepest fear. I haven't lost my grandchildren, I said quietly. They've been taken from me. There's a difference. Restore the financial support. Come to Christmas. Apologize for the disruption you've caused. We can all move forward. Apologize? I nearly laughed. For what exactly? For creating drama? For making demands? For putting Michael in an impossible position between his wife and his mother? I took a deep breath, centering myself. Thank you for calling, Diane. But I'm not interested in sweeping this under the rug to make everyone comfortable. Your daughter humiliated me. My son allowed it. Those are facts, not drama. When they're ready to acknowledge that and make genuine amends, I'll listen. Until then, I have nothing to apologize for. You're making a mistake, perhaps, but it's my mistake to make. I hung up before she could respond. An hour later, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw Patricia standing there, suitcase in hand, grinning. Surprise, she called out. I took an early retirement Christmas vacation. Figured you could use some backup. I flung open the door and hugged her, my sister, my ally, my reminder that I wasn't alone. How long can you stay? 2 weeks if you'll have me, longer if needed. She studied my face. You look tired, Ellie. It's been a hard week. I know. You told me some of it, but I want to hear everything. And then we're making a plan. Over tea and the pecan pie I'd never served on Thanksgiving, I told her everything. Every detail, every conversation, every threat. Patricia listened with the focused attention of a career legal secretary who'd spent 40 years watching courtroom dramas unfold. "They're playing hardball," she said finally. "Jennifer's building a case to paint you as unstable. Diane's call was reconnaissance, seeing if you'd crack under pressure." "I know. But you didn't. Good." She squeezed my hand. "Here's what we do next. We document everything. Every call, every text, every interaction. We build our own timeline. And we find you a family lawyer, not just an estate attorney." "You think it'll go that far?" "I think Jennifer will push as far as she can. Better to be prepared." That week, with Patricia's help, I did 3 things. First, I contacted Barbara Chen, a family law attorney Richard recommended. Second, I joined a grandmother's rights support group that met at the community center. Third, I started therapy with Dr. Sarah Mitchell, who specialized in family estrangement. I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was building a foundation, and I was no longer alone. 2 weeks before Christmas, Michael called. "Mom, can Jennifer and I come over tomorrow evening? We'd like to talk, really talk." I glanced at Patricia, who was reading on my couch. She raised an eyebrow, skeptical. "What time?" I asked. 7, after we put the girls to bed?" "All right, 7 tomorrow." When I hung up, Patricia said, "You know this is a setup, right?" "Probably, but I need to see what they're planning." The next evening, Patricia strategically positioned herself upstairs. "I'll give you privacy, but I'm here if you need me." While I waited in my living room. At exactly 7, headlights swept across my windows. They came to the door together, a united front. Michael carried a poinsettia. Jennifer wore a soft blue sweater, minimal makeup, her hair in a casual ponytail. She looked approachable, vulnerable even. It was a costume, and she wore it well. "Hi, Mom." Michael hugged me stiffly, handed me the plant. "Hello, Eleanor," Jennifer said quietly. "Thank you for seeing us." I led them to the living room, offered nothing. No coffee, no cookies, no hospitality beyond the basics. They sat together on the couch. I took the armchair across from them. "We've been doing a lot of thinking," Michael started. "About Thanksgiving, about everything since. And we want to make things right." I waited. Jennifer leaned forward, her hands clasped in her lap. "Eleanor, I owe you an apology. I was completely out of line on Thanksgiving. The stress of hosting, of trying to make everything perfect. It doesn't excuse how I treated you. You're Michael's mother. You're the girl's grandmother. You deserved better." It sounded genuine. Practiced, but genuine. I could see how she'd risen in her marketing career. She knew how to sell a narrative. "Thank you for saying that," I said neutrally. "I also want you to know," she continued, "that I never meant to come between you and Michael, or you and your granddaughters. Family is important to me. My parents, my sister, they're everything. I should have extended that same value to you." "Should have," I noted, past tense. "I'm extending it now." She smiled, a little tremulous. "I want to start over. Clean slate. I want Emma and Lily to know their grandmother. I want us to build a real relationship." "That sounds nice," I said. "What would that look like, practically?" Michael jumped in, eager. "You'd come to Christmas. We'd reinstate weekly dinners. Maybe you could watch the girls one afternoon a week, give Jennifer a break. Build that grandmother bond." "And financially?" I asked. They exchanged a glance. "The education funds are really important," Michael said carefully. "We'd like to see those restored. As for the mortgage help, we understand if you want to scale that back. Maybe half? 500 a month instead of 1,000? There it was, the real agenda. They'd dressed up the apology, wrapped it in pretty words about family and fresh starts, but underneath was the same old calculation. How to get Grandma's money flowing again. I see, I said quietly. Jennifer leaned even further forward, her eyes wide and sincere. Eleanor, I know we hurt you. I know we have work to do to rebuild trust. But punishing Emma and Lily by withholding their education funds, doesn't that hurt everyone? I'm not punishing the girls. I'm making financial decisions based on relationships and respect. But they're babies, Jennifer pressed. They didn't do anything wrong. They love you. They miss you. Is money really worth depriving them of their grandmother? The manipulation was so smooth, so practiced. She'd flipped the entire narrative. Now I was the one depriving the children. I was the one choosing money over family. You're very good at this, I said. At what? Jennifer's face showed perfect confusion. At reframing reality. You threw me out of your house. You threatened me with police and lawyers. You controlled when and how I could see my grandchildren. But now you're here, making it sound like I'm the problem because I won't subsidize your lifestyle. Michael stood up. Mom, that's not fair. We came here to apologize. You came here to restore your funding, I interrupted, standing as well. Let me be crystal clear. I don't trust Jennifer. I don't trust you, Michael. You've shown me exactly who you are when you're pressured to choose. And an apology delivered with a price tag isn't an apology at all. Jennifer's mask cracked. Just for a second, I saw the cold fury underneath. So that's it? You're going to hold this grudge forever? Cut us off forever? I'm going to protect myself, that's all. From what? Jennifer stood now, too, her voice rising. From family who's trying to make amends. From grandchildren who need you. You're being selfish and vindictive. I think you should leave now. We came here in good faith. Her voice had gone shrill, the careful control evaporating. No, you came here with a script, and when I didn't follow along, you got angry. That tells me everything I need to know. You know what? Jennifer grabbed her purse. Fine. Keep your money. Keep your grudges. But don't expect to waltz back into our lives when you decide you're lonely. We're done begging. I never asked you to beg. I asked you to be decent human beings. We tried, Michael said, his face flushed. We really tried, Mom. You tried to manipulate me. There's a difference. They left in a fury of slammed doors and squealing tires. I stood in my living room, shaking, my heart pounding so hard I felt dizzy. Patricia came downstairs. You okay? No, I admitted. I'm terrified. What if I never see those girls again? What if I'm making a horrible mistake? Or, Patricia said gently, what if you're teaching them the most important lesson? That self-respect isn't negotiable. I wanted to believe her. But that night, I barely slept. Haunted by Emma's face, by Lily's giggle, by the possibility that my pride had cost me everything that mattered. Christmas came and went in quiet solitude. Patricia stayed with me, and we made our own traditions, volunteering at the homeless shelter, watching classic movies, cooking meals we'd enjoyed as children. But every carol, every family scene in every film felt like a reminder of what I'd lost. Then, 3 days after Christmas, my phone rang. An unknown local number. Mrs. Patterson, this is Carrie Mills. I'm the director at Little Explorers Preschool. My breath caught. That was where the twins went 3 mornings a week. Yes? I'm calling because, well, this is awkward, but I thought you should know. Michael listed you as an emergency contact when he enrolled the girls. This morning, Jennifer came to pick them up and seemed quite agitated. When I asked if everything was all right, she said that under no circumstances should you be allowed near the children. She said you were unstable and might try to take them. My hands went numb. She said I was unstable. She was quite insistent. She wanted me to flag your name in our system as a potential threat. Ms. Mills paused. Mrs. Patterson, I've worked with children for 20 years. I know the difference between genuine safety concerns and family disputes. I wanted to reach out directly before making any official notes. Thank you, I managed. What did you tell her? That I'd need formal documentation, court orders, police reports, something official, before restricting a grandparent's access based solely on parental accusation. She wasn't happy. After we hung up, I immediately called Barbara Chen, my family lawyer. They're escalating, Barbara said grimly. Building a paper trail to paint you is dangerous. Schools, doctors, neighbors, they'll try to create a narrative that justifies cutting you out. What can I do? Document everything, and we need to consider filing for grandparent visitation rights. Can we win? In New York? It's complicated. We'd need to prove that visitation is in the children's best interest and that there's a substantial existing relationship. The fact that you've been involved since birth helps. Do it, I said. File the papers. 2 weeks later, Michael and Jennifer received the legal notice. Eleanor Patterson was petitioning for court-ordered grandparent visitation. The response was immediate and explosive. Jennifer called me directly, something she'd never done before. You're suing us? You're actually taking us to court? I'm asking a judge to protect my relationship with my grandchildren. You've made it clear you'll use them as leverage. I won't allow that. This will destroy us. Her voice cracked. Do you know what this looks like? A grandmother suing for access? Will look like monsters to everyone. Then perhaps you should have considered that before threatening to erase me from their lives. Michael is devastated. You're his mother, and you're dragging him through legal hell. I'm his mother, and he watched you slam a door in my face. Where was his devastation then? The mediation hearing was set for February. Barbara prepared me carefully. They'll try to paint you as vindictive. Stay calm, stay factual. Judges see through hysteria. The day of the hearing, I dressed carefully in a navy suit, minimal jewelry, comfortable shoes. Patricia drove me to the courthouse, squeezed my hand before I went inside. The mediation room was small, windowless. A court-appointed mediator, Mrs. Sullivan, sat at the head of a conference table. Michael and Jennifer arrived with their lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Christine Rothberg. Jennifer had clearly been crying. Michael looked haggard. They were playing the part of wounded victims perfectly. Let's begin, Mrs. Sullivan said. Mrs. Patterson, you've petitioned for visitation with your granddaughters. Can you explain why? I laid out the timeline calmly. Years of involvement, financial support, close relationship with the twins, the Thanksgiving incident, subsequent exclusion, threats of police involvement. Christine Rothberg jumped in. My clients have serious concerns about Mrs. Patterson's mental state. She's exhibited erratic behavior, making threats, cutting off promised financial support, showing up uninvited at their home. I never made threats, I said evenly. I made choices about my own money, and I visited my son's home where I'd been welcome for years. After being explicitly told you weren't welcome, Jennifer interjected. After being invited by my son and then humiliated by you. Mrs. Sullivan held up a hand. Let's stay focused. Mr. Patterson, what's your position on your mother's relationship with your daughters? Michael shifted uncomfortably. I want my girls to know their grandmother, but I also need to support my wife. Jennifer's concerns are valid. What concerns, specifically? Mrs. Sullivan asked. Jennifer pulled out a folder. We have documentation. Text messages showing her financial manipulation. Records of her threatening our mortgage. Evidence of her instability. Barbara leaned forward. May I see this documentation? The texts were our exchanges. Mine stating I was stopping payments. Theirs demanding I restore them. Nothing threatening, just facts. The evidence of instability was Jennifer's written account of Thanksgiving and my subsequent visits. This is one-sided, Barbara noted. Where's the other perspective? We also have a statement from Jennifer's mother, Christine said, confirming Mrs. Patterson's erratic behavior during a phone call. I nearly laughed. Diane's attempt at manipulation reframed as evidence. Mrs. Sullivan reviewed everything silently. Finally, she looked up. I'm going to be frank. I see a family conflict that's spiraled, but I don't see evidence of danger or instability. Mrs. Patterson appears to be a grandmother who was excluded from a family event, reacted by withdrawing financial support, and is now seeking to maintain a relationship with her grandchildren. She looked at Jennifer and Michael. That's not instability. That's self-preservation. Jennifer's face flushed. But she's trying to control us. No, Mrs. Sullivan interrupted. You're trying to control her. You want her money without her presence. That's not how family works. The room fell silent. Here's my recommendation, Mrs. Sullivan continued. Weekly supervised visits, 2 hours at a neutral location. After 3 months, we reassess. Both parties attend family counseling. Supervised? Jennifer's voice rose. As if she's dangerous? Supervised to ensure compliance and rebuild trust. Take it or leave it. But if this goes to a judge, they'll likely order something similar, and it'll be on your permanent record. Christine whispered urgently to Jennifer and Michael. Finally, Michael nodded. We'll agree to the supervised visits, Christine said stiffly. I felt tears prick my eyes but kept my face composed. Thank you. As we left the courthouse, Jennifer grabbed my arm in the hallway. This isn't over, she hissed. You won a battle, not the war. I gently removed her hand. There shouldn't be a war, Jennifer. These are children, not territory. For the first time, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. She'd lost control of the narrative, lost her power to exclude me, and she knew it. The supervised visits began the following week at a family resource center. A social worker, Mrs. Kim, sat quietly in the corner while Emma and Lily played with me. The first hour was awkward. The girls were confused by the strange setting, wary after weeks without seeing me. But children forgive quickly. By the second visit, they were climbing into my lap, chattering about their toys, their friends, their lives. Michael came to drop them off and pick them up. Jennifer never appeared. At the third visit, Mrs. Kim pulled me aside. I'm noting in my report that the children are clearly bonded with you. There's genuine affection here. I see no reason these visits can't become unsupervised. Thank you, I said, relief flooding through me. That night, Michael called. Mom, can we talk? Just you and me? We met for coffee the next morning at a diner halfway between our homes. He looked exhausted, older than his 36 years. I'm losing my marriage, he said, without preamble. I sipped my coffee, stayed quiet. Jennifer's furious about the court order. She feels undermined. Like her authority in her own home doesn't matter. Her authority to exclude me? Her authority to make decisions about our family. He ran his hands through his hair. But I've been doing a lot of thinking. In counseling, which Jennifer hates, by the way, the therapist asked me to describe my childhood. I talked about you and Dad, how you showed up for every game, every concert, how you taught me to stand up for what's right, to treat people with respect. He looked up, eyes red. And the therapist asked, so, when your wife humiliated your mother, why didn't you stand up for what's right? I didn't have an answer. Michael, let me finish. I've let Jennifer control everything for so long because it was easier than fighting, easier than standing my ground. But I've watched you these past months, refusing to be erased, fighting for your grandchildren, holding on to your dignity. And I realized you're still teaching me, even now. Tears rolled down his cheeks. I'm so sorry, Mom, for all of it. For Thanksgiving. For not defending you, for letting money matter more than integrity. I'm ashamed. I reached across the table, took his hand. I forgive you. Just like that? You're my son. I've been waiting for you to come back to me. I want to make this right, really right. Not performative apologies, real change. What does that look like? I'm giving Jennifer an ultimatum. Either she genuinely makes amends with you, accepts the court order with grace, and commits to family therapy, or I'm filing for divorce. I drew in a sharp breath. Michael, I don't want to destroy your marriage. You're not destroying anything. She is, and I'm done enabling it. His jaw set in a way that reminded me of Robert. I've consulted a lawyer. If it comes to divorce, I'll fight for custody. I'll make sure you have access to the girls, always. What about Jennifer's threats, her documentation? Turns out her evidence doesn't hold up. My lawyer laughed at it, said any judge would see through it. The only thing she accomplished was showing her true colors. 3 weeks later, Michael called with news. She's agreed to all of it. Family therapy, unsupervised visits with you, Sunday dinners reinstated. Christine advised her that fighting this would make her look worse. And what about her? How is she? Humiliated, angry, but compliant. He paused. Mom, I don't know if this marriage will survive, but I know my children will grow up watching their father choose what's right over what's easy. That has to count for something. The first unsupervised visit was at my home on a Sunday afternoon. Michael brought the girls himself. Jennifer stayed in the car, staring straight ahead, her face a mask of fury. Emma and Lily ran to me, squealing with joy. We made cookies, read stories, played in the backyard. Michael stayed, relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in years. At dinner, he said, I want you to know, I've restarted your payments, the education funds, everything. Not because you asked, but because it's right. You invested in us. You deserve to see that investment honored. Michael, you don't have to. I want to, and it's not Jennifer's decision. It's mine. The following month, family therapy included me. Jennifer sat stiff and silent while the therapist facilitated conversations about boundaries, respect, and repair. Jennifer, Dr. Morrison said, what are you afraid of? After a long pause, Jennifer finally spoke. That I'll never be enough. That Michael will always choose her over me. It's not a competition, I said quietly. There's room for both of us. Is there? Her voice cracked. You're his mother. You're irreplaceable. What am I? For the first time, I saw the insecurity beneath the cruelty. She wasn't a monster. She was a frightened woman who'd tried to control what she feared losing. You're his wife, I said. The mother of his children, the woman he chose. That's not nothing. She looked at me, surprised. But you hate me. I hate what you did. I don't hate you. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a crack in the wall. Over the following months, Jennifer and I maintained civil distance. She attended Sunday dinners, but rarely spoke to me directly. Michael held firm on boundaries. My relationship with the twins was non-negotiable. My presence was permanent, and respect was mandatory. Jennifer's mother, Diane, tried once more to intervene, calling to lecture me about family harmony. I politely told her that her daughter had created this situation and could resolve it by treating me with basic decency. She hung up on me. I didn't care. By summer, a new normal had emerged. I saw Emma and Lily twice a week. They stayed overnight at my house monthly. Michael and I had breakfast together every other Saturday. And Jennifer? She'd learned that control isn't the same as power. That threats don't work on people who've already lost everything and found their strength. She'd lost the war, decisively. And I'd won my family back. By September, my life had transformed in ways I'd never anticipated. The courtroom battle, painful as it was, had freed me. Patricia had returned to California in March, but we talked weekly now. You sound different, she said during one call. Lighter. She was right. For years, I'd defined myself through my relationship with Michael's family, the helpful mother, the generous grandmother. Losing that identity had forced me to ask, who was Eleanor Patterson without that role? I joined a book club at the library, started watercolor classes on Thursday mornings, volunteered at a literacy program teaching adult immigrants to read English. I'd forgotten what it felt like to have interests beyond family obligation. I also met Helen, a 70-year-old retired teacher, at a widow's support group. We became regular companions for museum trips and theater outings. The twins flourished with consistent time with me. Emma loved reading. We'd curl up with books for hours. Lily wanted to bake and garden and create art projects. I got to know them as individuals. Michael visited often. Our relationship had deepened beyond superficial phone calls. We talked about real things, his doubts, his struggles, his dreams for his daughters. And Jennifer? I asked carefully one Sunday. His face clouded. Her promotion fell through at work. The stress of everything. Her boss said she seemed distracted and combative. She was passed over for someone younger. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired. But Jennifer's difficulties continued. Her sister Lauren had distanced herself after learning the full story. Lauren told her she'd been cruel, Michael said. They're barely speaking now. Jennifer's parents had also grown critical. Diane had apparently said, "You created an enemy where you could have had an ally. Look at what Eleanor provides those girls." Jennifer had walked out. The narrative Jennifer had tried to construct, unstable grandmother, protective mother, had collapsed. Instead, she'd become the daughter-in-law who'd cruelly excluded a loving grandmother. Social consequences in suburban communities are subtle, but real. Invitations declined. Conversations that stopped when she entered rooms. The slow freeze of social disapproval. "She's depressed," Michael admitted one evening. "On medication now. The therapist says she needs to work through control issues." "Is she working through them?" "Slowly. Some days she looks at you with such hatred when you pick up the girls." "I know, I see it." "Does it bother you?" "Not as much as it would have a year ago. Her hatred is her problem, not mine." My finances had stabilized. Without the monthly drain of supporting Michael's household, I'd reinvested in my retirement accounts. I was helping on my terms, not out of obligation. I'd even started dating, casually, a retired professor named George from my book club. It was nice to remember that at 64, my life wasn't over. One Saturday morning, I sat in my garden with coffee, watching hummingbirds at the feeder. My phone buzzed. Michael, sending a photo. Emma and Lily covered in mud, laughing hysterically. The text read, "They wanted to make you a special garden for your birthday next month." I smiled, feeling my heart swell. This was enough. This was everything. Jennifer could keep her resentment. I had my peace. Looking back now, I understand the greatest lesson of that terrible Thanksgiving. Respect cannot be bought, only earned, and self-respect. That's non-negotiable. I'd spent years funding a relationship that had no foundation. When I stopped paying, I discovered who truly valued me and who'd only valued my wallet. But here's what I learned. You can survive losing everything. You can rebuild. You can be happy. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to accept less than you deserve. So I ask you, if someone treats you as disposable, do you keep paying for their affection? Or do you walk away and discover your own worth? Think about it. And if this story resonated with you, share it. Someone in your life might need to hear it. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps you find your own strength.